Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday morning. I wish it were Friday, the 17th. It's 9:36 a.m. I didn't go. I didn't disappear last night. It got to a point that I just went home and said I will go to bed, get up a little earlier, and this way uh, we'll have all the fresh model stuff or the from the overnight and some of the new models coming in. So good morning to Bill, to Scott, to Timothy, and I think I saw David on here also. Hang on, and Stephen. Is Stephen here? Stephen is here. Connor, good morning, and also to Ben McGinnis, our buddy from Canada, and Timothy Veltman. So it's nice. We got a nice crowd. If I'm and Adam's on too. So good. The snow removal guys are on. All right. So look, let's get rolling. I just going to start off with the new NAM is coming out now. So I want to start off with last night's European model run, and uh, then we're going to go on to the new NAM, and we'll see what it does. By the way, just really fast as far as tonight is concerned, this is minor. I don't really see a whole lot of upside here. If the radar fires up in a couple of spots where somebody winds up with a pop up to 2 inches, that could happen. But this is not like something that's going to suddenly evolve into a huge upside surprise. This is the 12Z HRRR model on it. I think it probably has a good handle on what's on the radar at the moment. And with respect to arrival and departure time, this is what the radar is supposed to look like at 7 o'clock tonight. So for my guys that are down in southern PA, this is how the radar is supposed to look. Now, how much of this is reaching the ground, I don't know. But I'm thinking some of that's a loft because that first area kind of shrinks out as it moves into western New Jersey and then remerges, then expands again. This is at 10 o'clock at night, so it'll be snowing in much of western New Jersey and eastern PA at this point. And it's a very weak low that dies out in southern Ohio and reforms right off the North Carolina coast. But the important takeaway here is that the low is not able to go up toward the St. Lawrence Valley or up through upstate New York, as some of the global models were suggesting days ago. And you get this low that's redeveloping east of Virginia. It's kind of telling you where the alleyway may be for this next system, and that and we'll see if it plays out on the new NAM, because it did play out on some of the overnight stuff and on the European and on the Uke bet. So that whole concept of rhyming, that things don't repeat exactly, but they do rhyme, and the thermal boundary seems to want to set up this winter down to our south and east, and storms have been riding along it. We've had the two big ones for the mid-Atlantic states, and they pretty much went straight east. This one may not go straight. This one kind of a weak version getting out of here, and it wouldn't be out of the question to see the system for the weekend try to do something similar. By the way, also front and center too is the fact that starting to think that ice may become the bigger issue wherever that 32-degree line stops moving north, and it is going to come to a grinding halt near or just north of New York City. It could kind of start jumping back and forth in all directions with the second thing. All right, so quick look at the NAM total, the HRRR total snowfall. There it is. You got those ones printed out there. So it's a coating to a couple of inches. The total accumulated precip out to 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Very light. I mean, the first color that shows up is 1 to 5/100ths, and then the second darker color is 5/100ths to a tenth. So I mean, we're basically talking about liquid amounts that can only produce a coating to an inch. So if you want to nudge it up a little bit higher, you're a coating to 2 inches. According to a couple, I like to use that phrase. So enough with this one. So we'll now move on to the next one. And I'll widen out. And we're going to go to the European from last night. So let me show you, we're going to show you the upper air first in what's happening. So there's your southern stream and your northern stream jet. They're pretty, where you got the darker patches of blue, really indicates where the troughs are. The trough in the north is off the top of the screen. It's stretched out east-west. The trough in the southern stream remains separate. This is Saturday evening, by the way, at 7 o'clock. Then on the next one, you start to get phasing, and it's occurring along and just east of 80 degrees west. And this is really important because it's going to take the southern energy. If there's a low somewhere in northern Alabama or southern Tennessee here Saturday evening, is going to want to go, meander its way northeastward and try to move. I think it may try to move off the Virginia coast, the southern Virginia coast, maybe between Richmond and Norfolk, and then across southern Delmarva, and then head out east-northeast from there. And ultimately, this thing really winds up cutting off in a big way, south and east of Cape Cod. And this is, if you've been watching this over the last few days, the big changes that have occurred in the upper air. This is, if that cutoff were more south and west, we would be getting a serious snowstorm down near the coast. As it is, we're seeing the big snows happening north and west of the coast, but not that far away. So, it's getting perilously, close here with what the model did last night, at least what the European did. The surface here to go along with it, and then I'm going to show you the UCMET. So here's your low in eastern Tennessee for Saturday evening. And European is slower. You can't see the in-between, but I can tell you if you draw a line, draw almost a straight line from there to there, that's your track. That's the thermal track on the European, which is south and east of the GFS, which still is trying to do this sort of inland, just inland type of storm that runs up into eastern Pennsylvania. I think the fact that the European is doing this and the NAM last night also did the same thing is supportive to me to the more to the more east solution. I think the thermal boundary is being the boundary where the system wants to move along, the temperature boundary between the cold air and the warmer tropical air to the south. It seems to want to set up to our south and east, as I said earlier, and things like to just like to happen the same way over and over again. The GFS, just as a point of comparison, it's got the low up in northeastern Kentucky, and look how the isobars are pointed toward Pittsburgh, and then you've got another wedge that's pointing east toward the Delmarva Peninsula. It takes the low east-northeast and over northern New Jersey and eastern Connecticut. I think the thermal boundary here is further south, or the boundary of which the storm is going to want to move is further south. Same direction, but I don't think you're going to wind up with a low that far north. I think you're going to see the surface low pinched back more to the south. And the reason that the GFS does this on the upper air from last night is that it is a bit more phased, a bit faster. It's also not as deep with the upper low as you go to the east. I mean, the European really just kind of plunges that upper low south and east of Cape Cod. That is a very important development in that model. The NAM last night, and then we will go to the new NAM because it is almost done. So if you've got that thermal boundary setting up to the south, to the way it is, with a low tracking like that, you're going to wind up, the upper air is going to warm up enough to change it over to change the snow over. But the bottom part of the atmosphere is going to be cold. Now here's the first system. So we'll move that out. blossoms up a bit. The NAM last night was a little bit colder with this, so that moves away. And then here's the second one, low that moves across Kentucky and east. And there's there's probably one low, a lower pressure up in Kentucky, another low down in northern Alabama, and you can see how it pops up there into western South Carolina, through North Carolina, off the Virginia coast, and watch how we get this thump of snow that comes in. So this is Saturday evening at 7 o'clock. So the snow is just about ready to start in Philadelphia, and it's at the New Jersey line. It starts off very quickly between 7 and 10 o'clock. In southern Pennsylvania, you've dropped down. You've started to change over, and you start to see this expanding area of sleet and freezing rain by 1 a.m. That gets to about the city and Long Island, still snowing across northern New Jersey and into southeastern New York and Connecticut and in northeastern Pennsylvania. And now the NAM has got this really big area of snow and ice. Again, we're looking at last night's. I'm just waiting another couple of minutes for the for the model to the new NAM to finish up. So this is at 4 a.m. That ice rain line is literally lying right across New York City, just and right along the New Jersey Turnpike in New Jersey. So everywhere north and west of there is getting sleet and freezing rain. And here it is at 7 a.m. And then at 10 a.m., it actually sinks southeastward into Nassau County and northwestern Suffolk before the system starts to pull away. And look where the surface low is. It's out at off the Maryland coast at 37, about 38 north and about 73.2 west. That is off at this point at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We've got northerly winds, and actually the winds turn northerly right through the morning. After 7 a.m., the winds start to back around to the north. And that's really important because that's the cold air at the low levels is going to be there. It's a matter of just getting, once that wind turns around, you're going to see the temperatures drop off fairly quickly. Now, two levels we're going to look at. We're going to look at the temperatures. So here are the ground temperatures. It's a little hard to see. Obviously, the blue lines are all below freezing. They're in 5-degree increments. And we're at, this is Saturday at 10 o'clock. That's in the morning. So the freezing line is the dashed line in between. So if we're talking, if we're going to be looking at where you're going to wind up with freezing rain, or temperatures at least at 32 or less, where anything that's falling is going to try to freeze up. So here we have at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock Saturday night. The upper atmosphere at this point is cold. That the first shot of precip that's coming in is going to be snow. So your 32-degree line is there in southern Monmouth County, running southwestward into northern Delaware and back south of Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. You've got temperatures in the mid and upper 20s, at least in the world of the NAM, everywhere north of I-95 and over Long Island. So that's a pretty cold surface. And you can see where the 20-degree line is not that far to the north. It's touching northwest New Jersey and just north of Poughkeepsie and north of Route 84 in Connecticut. That starts to actually push southward. At the same time, that 32-degree line is pushing northward. You see how the temperature gradient there gets pretty tight. We are at 1 a.m. It's still below freezing everywhere north and west of the Turnpike. And that 20-degree line is actually sunk southward. So areas in northern New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, that 25-degree line drops down to New York City, at least according to the NAM. Then you're going to start to see it just hover. At 7 a.m., the 32-degree line has pivoted northwestward through Long Island to to the Nassau-Queens line, and north and west of there, temperatures are 30 or less. We're in the 20s across northern New Jersey, the 20s in the Hudson Valley and Connecticut, and that's it. That's as far north as the low-level temperatures get, and it starts dropping southeastward after that. So this is why, at least from the standpoint of the NAM and the European, we have, if we lose if we lose the upper air to support snow, and the zero line at 850, we're going to look at the 850 level, shows that. Because this is at 7 a.m. So at the 4,700 foot level, which is important, that zero goes through after 1 a.m. and moves up to about just north of Poughkeepsie at 7 a.m. By 1 p.m., it's dropping back south and east, and you can see where the surface low is. So, I mean, this is really close overall, and as far as outcome is concerned. So, north and west of that zero line, if that's where the temperatures, if that's actually where the zero line is going to be, you could probably bet that that is where the 1 foot plus snows are going to occur, north and west of that line. And for the areas in between, from the areas from here to there, the issue, I'm sorry, let me just back this up. So from areas from this is Sunday at 1 o'clock. So, this area with what comes up Saturday night, you get a front end thump of a few to several inches maybe, and then that change over to sleet and freezing rain, and then we'll see if there's anything left over to go to deal with on the backside. Okay, new NAM is done, so let's take a look at, and I haven't seen it, so I didn't even look at it from the very beginning. So now that it's out all the way, let's take a look at what's happening. And here's your first weather system moving along. No real change here. A little bit of a darker shading of blue with the snow from the overnight looks like over Long Island and parts of Jersey. It gets out of the way. This is at 5 a.m. So look, the time frame is the same. Starts out across southern PA, just moving through south central PA. This is at 10 p.m. So it's just getting to the northwest New Jersey border there. So really by 11 o'clock, it's lining up along the border. Midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And you get the drill here. And then out. Here comes the second one. There's our low. Expanding area of snow over Iowa, Nebraska. Low moving across southern Arkansas, back through western Kentucky. We're at 7 o'clock Saturday night. Low in central Kentucky, probably stretched down to northern Georgia there. You've got ice down through the mountains of western Virginia, West Virginia. Snow now again showing up back in Maryland. The warmer run last night had rain there. And now it's got snow and ice back to Washington, D.C., Baltimore. Snow in Pennsylvania. That's at 7 p.m. All right, at 10 p.m., you've got moderate snow in the darker blues to Long Island, the Hudson Valley. You still got ice going on in southern PA near the PA line. Rain in South Jersey. Here, this is something to watch. You've got this high in eastern Canada. If you remember back in November, the November storm, it was a high up to the north that sort of wedged in a bit stronger for a couple of extra hours and bled down a little bit more cold air. This is certainly a situation, particularly at low levels, where that's going to be extremely important. All right, so 10 o'clock, and now you're starting to see by 1 a.m., you've got the sleet over Long Island, just north and west of the Turnpike, and it looks north of 78. It's still mostly all snow. Maybe New York City is still all snow at this point, and in through the Hudson Valley. 4 a.m., 7 a.m., 10 a.m. It's very consistent from the last run. And look where the surface low, the one in Kentucky dies out. A new one forms in northeastern Georgia, runs through eastern North Carolina, moves off the coast of Virginia near Chesapeake, in southern Chesapeake Bay. It's east of the Delaware coast. This is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it would have changed over to sleet across Long Island. So this is going to be really close as far as an ice storm for the coast, and I think again for inland areas north and west, we've got a problem here that could be developing. So check out the precip total liquid precipitation. You're talking about the dark blue is a half to 3/4, 3/4 to an inch to. So it looks like through Sunday morning at least, you're talking about an inch to an inch and a quarter of liquid. And then you get to New York a little bit further south, from 78 down to the Turnpike to about the city to Western Long Island, to most of Long Island. It's an inch and a quarter to an inch and a half of liquid. And then you've got the inch and a half to 2 inch liquids down in the southern half of New Jersey. But I'm going to be interested to see through 1 a.m. Let's just, for the areas that stay all snow through 1 a.m., you're talking about a half to 3/4 of an inch of liquid. So the north along and north and west of the Turnpike to about New York City, maybe Western Long Island, northern Nassau County, northwestern Suffolk County. From there, north and west, I think there's a pretty good shot you're going to wind up with at least several inches on the front end, and start moving north toward Route 80 and north of there into the Hudson Valley. It's probably going to be a front end thump of maybe up to 6, and then we start to deal with where's the sleet and freezing rain line going to be. All right, let's look at temperatures. Going to be very important. I'll save the snow map for last. All right, so we'll first look. Sorry about that. So let's look at. I'm not setting the app. That map doesn't set the atmosphere on fire, so don't worry. I'm looking for the contours here. I think it's easier to look at. I think it gives you a better feel of what the temperatures are going to really look like. So much like last night, that 32-degree line is on the NAM, along and just south of the Turnpike, and you start to go very short distances to go from 32 to upper teens, and this is at 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, upper teens in northwest New Jersey. You've got low 30s running right along the Jersey Turnpike, and that 32-degree line is off the south shore of Long Island. So temperatures in northern Nassau, northwestern Suffolk County here are in the upper 20s. They jump to the low 30s by 4 a.m. there, but very little movement northward in New Jersey and over New York City, and it starts to pivot southeastward, because this is the point where you're seeing that surface low that's going to wind up developing offshore. And then by 10 o'clock, that 32-degree line is dropping southeastward. So we're starting to see a changeover back to ice across Nassau County. And by 1 o'clock, temperatures are in the 20s everywhere. Long Island. So it's actually turning colder faster on the backside. The big question is going to be how much backside precip is there going to be once we get past 10 o'clock in the morning, because if you believe the NAM, the radar does kind of shut off during the afternoon. Once the low goes out, there's nothing that the NAM is seeing much beyond New Jersey, back from Western Long Island into Pennsylvania. There's a firing up of stuff over Eastern Long Island at this point, where it's all snow, sleet, and freezing rain. Very tough call here for Long Island, because this is Long Island to the southern areas of the city and point south. We're talking about a very, very tight gradient there, and that 32-degree line is going to be critical. But I would say much of the, certainly places like in the Bronx, the counties surrounding New York, the counties in Jersey, Union, Essex, Hudson County, north and west. I mean, we're talking about a freezing rain situation coming down, and sleet situation coming down pretty far to the south. The snow map, I'm going to put it up, and the problem with this is it is reflecting a 10-to-1 on that liquid ratio through the whole event, and we know we're not going to see that. So the 1 foot plus amounts that it's showing down into southeastern PA, a lot of that is going to be sleet and freezing rain. But at the very least, it does tell you that after a front end thump of several inches or a bit more in some instances, you're going to have a considerable amount of freezing rain and sleet to deal with. And it might be more sleet than anything else as you go on the northern end. Just want to take a look, see if the positive snow growth. Whenever you use these maps, this actually, the positive snow growth map, I think might not be too bad in terms of numbers. At this point, at least we could start to take it a bit more seriously. But it's got a 2 inch. Let's call this a 2 to 4 inch front end snow for southern Pennsylvania. And as you go north and northeastward, the 6 inch line cuts across. I'm going to be conservative. Let's use Route 78. So it looks like the 6 inch line goes from Route 78 north and northwest, and then cuts across to just north of, just around the northern areas, north of New York City, White Plains. That looks like it could be 4 to 6, and then of course where the zero, as I was pointing out, that zero at the zero temperature, the 32-degree line at 4,700 feet, where the southern edge of that was, there's your 1 foot plus snows. I actually think that this map may not be a bad reflection of what might wind up being the outcome through all of this, if that coastal track winds up being verified. I have the UCMET to show you from last night. Okay. So I don't know if this is shareable or not, but I'm sharing it. And if they're going to take me to the tower, let them take me to the tower. But look at the UCMET from last night. There's your 994 low, just east of Nashville. I'll make sure you guys can see this pretty well. And that is at the time frame for that is Saturday, 7 o'clock. So snow will be just getting underway. It's got, look at that the high that's kind of wedging into Maine, and that's cold air that is wedging southward on the UCMET. And now look where the surface low winds up going. It goes almost not quite straight east, but east northeast. Again, that's where that thermal boundary has been wanting to set up, and the UCMET, the NAM, the European, all seem to be on that particular page. So we're going to wait for the GFS and the Canadian model to decide where they want to go through this. The new ones will be starting in about an hour. I'm sorry, the Canadian will start in about an hour. The GFS is going to be starting shortly. Let me come back to you guys on here. My coffee this morning has not quite kicked in, but I'm making a little bit more sense than I was making yesterday. Okay. Oh, I got a nice crowd this morning. I think this might be our biggest Patreon private live stream crowd that we've had for a while. Alicia Williams is on board, and Joyce Mack. Nice to see you guys on here. Ben, you want to know the total precip for Nova Scotia? Okay, hang on one second. Let's see what the NAM did with that. All right, you can kind of see the southern edge of the map. So let me just run to. Let me switch to the region from Canada. We get a limited view of the NAM in Canada, but we do at least get something. And there's your snow map. It looks like the model does generate 6-inch plus. So just want to see here. Looks like you're going to get into some of this ice as well. That low may get fairly wrapped up, Ben. It may get pretty deep when it gets to near Nova Scotia. I did notice that the European was actually east of yesterday's run in terms of the position. So you may do the ice, uh, the snow to ice to back to snow type of setup. Total accumulated precip, and this is only through 1 o'clock in the afternoon Sunday, is about 3 and 4 tenths. The southwestern part of Nova Scotia is where you start to get into the 3/4 of an inch to an inch of precip, and of course you've got more to go because this is just getting underway really at this point of the game, and the NAM doesn't go out obviously beyond 84 hours. But I just want to look real quick at what the GFS did last night. And by the way, I'm not the GFS has a track that runs just inland of the coast. I really think that given what's going on, it argues again that solution uh, is getting more and more difficult to support. So here we go with the low in the Gulf of Maine. See, it's got a more west track uh, because of the fact that the thermal boundary is further to the northwest on the GFS. Just I guess I want to wait for the GFS to confirm only to at least confirm the things that we've heard about it. That there's some data problems with it. That the warm bias that's existed, and that is real. That model has had a really bad warm bias in since the last upgrade, and that played out like said a number of times. That played out pretty much in every one of those the four nor'easters that we had. So I think it's north and west, and I think that's wrong. With that big high to the north, it's hard for me to envision how you're going to take a low and run it up in eastern Pennsylvania and into southern New England, just inland of the coast. It just seems uh, a bit far fetched. Um, let's see. You think the low can get suppressed farther south when it's showing now? It could. I wonder which model. The model has if the European and the UCMET seem to have this idea that that whole upper air is going to phase and then cut off rather vigorously. That upper air on the European is certainly suggestive that you could wind up with the surface low that's a little further, that winds up being a little bit further south. I wouldn't rule it out. Let me put it like this: the fact that the fact that the 12Z NAM and the 6Z NAM were very much in lockstep. To me, they were almost identical. The 12Z might have even been a shade colder at the surface. Is really supportive of the low going out underneath us and not over us. Because if it goes over us, then you're looking at that 32-degree line probably up north of Route 84, and then you're talking about um, temperatures in central and south Jersey in some areas possibly going up to 60 because of the way the warm boundary will temporarily move up in that direction. But I honestly think that this is if anything's going to happen here, it's going to wind up trending further to the south. Okay, so you guys are now having a conversation about the principle behind beet juice. Okay, is the sugars lower the okay? Well, I'm sure there's a model for that. 50 kilometers south, I could get snow. 50 kilometers north, it's rain. The meteorologists really aren't saying whether it'll be snow yet or rain yet. I think you could split. It could be, Ben. It could wind up being snow to ice. There might be an area of ice for you guys out of this. If depending on with that coastal track, that is certainly a possibility. Um, hey Jason, don't rule out this being a little bit colder with regards to the 32-degree line being further south. Uh, I think it's a real push to want it's going to be a real push to think that the zero at 850, which is where you would line up the snow rain line ultimately the snow freezing line. Uh, it's going to take an awful lot to start getting model runs where that line is collapsed all the way down to the coast. Maybe you get it close enough to the coast so that you wind up with a changeover back to snow before it ends. But as far as getting it so far south, you would need it to drop south of the turnpike, or at least down to the level of the turnpike, in order to have it be an all snow event. But uh, honestly, I think that's preferable to having it the way it is right now, which means that everybody from the turnpike north and west is going to have a serious icing situation that's going to develop out of all of this. And for Long Island, it's also tenuous because models never handle Long Island very well, particularly north of the Long Island Expressway. This could be a very, this could wind up being a serious icing problem if that 32-degree line winds up straddling down over Long Island and just sitting there. Um, I think this could be a big issue also for the island with that. I've seen it many times here living out here, where the expressway is kind of the line in the sand, because most areas from the expressway south, it's pretty flat. They're that going down to the South Shore, but we actually have some elevation here. It's not a lot. It's from anywhere from 100 to 450 feet at the highest point, and that extends. It gets even. There's some higher points in northern Nassau County, so those areas tend to stay colder, and you've got this sort of local climate effect that goes on where the cold air just sort of wedges in. And there have been a few icing events over the years that have taken place where that has played out, and then this may wind up being another one of those events. All right, going to leave it here. We are just 15 minutes away from the start of the GFS, and we'll just wait with that. In the meantime, I'm going to head on in. I'm going to be, by the way, I will be working Saturday at FiOS, so which will work to my advantage, as I'll be able to throw some, I'll be able to throw some posts on and and just be in basically all weather mode. Let me just tell you, as far as messaging is concerned, you can message me anytime on Patreon, and you guys can also message me if you need to. You can also message me on Facebook, because I'm not going to be responding uh, to most of the Facebook messages requesting zip code forecasts. You guys are in the group, and that's what we're going to do. So the only thing is, just bear in mind that I'm usually on the road between, say, 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., somewhere in that time frame. So if you message me and I don't answer you right away, it's because I'm on the road. And that's really pretty much it. And then on the road back home, if I'm putting a post up late in the evening and you message me, I'm usually on the road between 10 p.m. and midnight. So I try to get back to you. If I don't get back to you right after when I get home, I'll do it first thing in the morning. Okay, so yes, postal code forecast for Ben. Ben, you get a postal code forecast because you're here, okay, and at any time. Um, I am concerned, Bill, for Long Island with that freezing line. Saturday's gonna. You know what? Saturday is going to be the kind of day where I'm literally going to be looking at observations hour by hour at every station, watching to see what the temperature trends and how they compare to the models. This is a situation for Long Island, for New York City, and that area in New Jersey down near and around the turnpike, where 30, the difference between 30, 33, 32, 31, and 30 is huge. And, especially when it comes to ice. I can't stand ice. I rather, you're better off, you're always better off with all snow. You're always better off with all snow. At least you can get some traction. When it comes to this freezing rain nonsense, it is really, really problematic. More snow than us, than Boston. Oh yeah, well, so far, and Boston might do well with this, especially if it does wind up with a low that goes south and east of Cape Cod. So they will make up for their lack of snow up until now. They're going to be playing catch up. Mechanicsburg, PA, I assume, correct, Mark? You'll do well. Uh, Snow to ice, back to snow, something like that. And um, just trying to get your last minute thoughts and questions here. By the way, the European has much more precip on the backside from last night because it gives another couple of inches of snow on the backside, which the NAM kind of suggests that it just sort of shuts off. I was a little surprised to see the precip shut off as sharply as the NAM has it, but that's what it sees on the radar. Doesn't mean that there's something may not be going on that's below the radar. Sometimes the NAM misses that. Other times, the NAM doesn't see it now, but starts to pick it up in subsequent runs. So the start time for Saturday, Sunday, after 7 p.m. Saturday, there should be a burst of snow that develops after 7 p.m. And for New York City, a changeover before 1 a.m. You delay that by, hey, listen, if you delay that changeover by 1 or 2 hours, you're talking about possibly an extra 2 to 3 inches. So I think it's a pretty good bet that there's going to be a several inch thump on that north end, and the city's going to be part of that. All right, let me go here, folks. Thanks for being here as always, and look for the updates. We'll see you later.